And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We got a full crew here to finish off our big old game club for Pokemon Sun and Moon. I'm still here. Kyle Hilliard is here.
Hi.
Daniel Tack, Dan Tackle-McCann himself.
Yes, sir.
All right, then we got Ben Reeves.
Hello.
Brian Shea.
Hi.
And Suriel.
The official Pokemon Master.
Absolutely. So this is amazing because this game is long and down to get the friction on, and we've finished it. Everyone sitting at the table,
right.
the six of us, we've finally gotten this done with.
I will say, usually we lose people on our game clubs. It feels like this is the one where we've gained.
I was worried about Shea.
I was too. I had about 15 hours left with 2 days remaining, and I played 10 hours one day and like 5 or 6 hours the next
How did
day.
it feel to marathon that much Pokemon?
I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would.
Did you sleep? How did that work?
No, I played during work and
Now, that is true, which it's always a thing. I felt bad playing at work. I would just leave work early and then go home and play for a stupid amount of time. It took a lot of marathoning. I haven't done as much endgame content as I wanted to. Obviously beat the Elite Four, did a little bit afterwards, but that's about it. Kyle, you've played the most endgame content.
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, I didn't go like hugely far into it, but I did, get a bunch of the extra super special Pokemon.
UBs.
UBs.
So that's why you're here. I want to mine you because you actually did the review.
I did.
And so we didn't want you on the first part of this game club because we didn't want you spoiling things and
didn't.
hinting and be like, oh, Lusamine, is she the
Winking
one who
violently.
crawled inside a Metroid? I forget. So we're going to cover all that stuff. Dan Tack, it seemed like you were, I don't know, limping along.
disenchanted.
Down to fumes
I think
by
I
the
probably
end.
finished it before anybody else at this table.
Okay, but you said you
except
shut
for
the
me.
game off
I did.
mid-credits.
I
and-
sort of lost my the enchantment about half, 3/4 of the way through the game. It just felt like this linear tunnel to the end. Just
It wasn't hard enough.
I was just going through the. No, I'm not making any criticisms of it right now, except that I personally I got bored with it.
Because you were optimistic. You're like, maybe the story will pick up in the second half.
I think the story did pick up. It got stupid, but it picked up.
I think it got weird and it got much better from my vantage point.
I
But
liked it better.
why did you lose steam then?
It was just, I guess, the rote nature of the formulaic. Hey, go through this tunnel. It's got a bunch of Zubats. Go through this other place.
a lot of Zubats.
It's got a bunch of Gravelers.
I don't know what you want from Pokemon if not
I'll tell you
routes filled with Pokemon.
Well, you know what I want? I want a
Please.
Pokemon always online MMORPG is what I want.
So you want a completely different game.
Right.
Okay.
But you just asked me what I wanted. That's true. That's what I want.
So you normally are an endgame guy, aren't you?
Sure.
Why not this one?
It feels like I hate falling behind in one of these, and it feels like since we took a break, like if I wanted to be competitive, I would have already had a full roster battling all level 99s.
So you're
Who are you
blaming
competitive with?
this
Min-max.
podcast?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be playing online, obviously. Not with you guys.
Excuse me.
We
Getting
aren't worthy.
all the right moves. It just feels like I just didn't have that desire to do so in this one. And maybe it's because I've got so many other games that I'm playing on right now that are persistent online worlds that, extend past just, I finish it, I get the best stuff, and then I'm done.
Sure.
I don't know. And that's an element. Like I said, I still think this was a great Pokemon game.
Really? Okay, I've
But,
never heard you praise it.
Yeah, I mean, in comparison to many of the others.
Okay.
It's just like but I personally am not, I'm pretty much, I want something different.
Reeves, did you end up enjoying the second half?
Yeah, I think overall, I kind of felt like, I think Dan mentioned something like, felt behind. I felt behind just like level-wise on the second half more than I did in the
Really?
first half. Maybe it's just the final four mostly. I felt
Yeah.
under-leveled for them. And I had to go, partly because I was constantly mixing up my team and I never totally found a team of characters I totally love. And the starting character, I had the owl,
Yeah,
turns into
Decidueye.
Decidueye or whatever, just totally worthless. Like
I
constantly
think he's
dying.
okay.
Yeah, he just one hit
Quite
dead.
powerful, actually.
Did you have Bloom Doom? Like, did you have that?
Yeah, I mean, there were hits where he could like dish him out, but like one hit and he's done. Like it just felt worthless.
I didn't have that experience.
I
at all.
have to say, my Primarina was quite useful in the Elite Four.
Really?
Like,
Because it's
It's
very
pretty useless to me.
I don't know.
You don't know what type you're.
No. It's water fairy. I thought you said because it was fairy.
Oh, okay.
No, but like I had an ice move, I had a fairy move, I had a water move, and then
There weren't.
And then
Well,
a
there's one
psychic.
rock trainer in the Elite Four.
There's a rock trainer that Decidueye, you blow him away. Just,
but no real like
Except
dragon type.
they would
or-
attack me first and kill me. Like
Yeah.
that was the problem.
I think we'll talk about all that in a bit. But
Yeah.
Shea, how did you come up finishing up this game? What do you think of it?
I liked it. I didn't really have the drive to really continue after. Maybe part of that was because I played 15 hours in 2 days.
Yeah, you finished it at 2:00 this afternoon. Yeah.
Another thing is that like I was just watching the credit scene, like waiting for it to be over, and it just went on forever.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Like after you beat the Elite Four, like it was probably an hour.
No.
And it's
You're out of your mind.
That's a
was a
little bit
while,
of hyperbole there, I think.
It was a long.
you shut it off. You shut it off halfway
Yeah.
through, so you don't.
I was done with it, okay?
But like, yeah,
There was a lot of smiling and waving and like Kukui's wife, like when he's dressed up as the masked luchador, like looking at the camera, shrugging, like, "Oh, isn't this wacky?"
That reminded me of Ocarina a little bit. Actually.
Yeah, there we go.
And then it's like, hey, let's go across this bridge again and
Yeah.
fight another Pokemon. You're like,
Right.
what? Where is this?
But yeah, the post Elite Four stuff, I was really just done with.
You were fried. I understand. Oh my God, this negativity. Suriel, what did you think?
I thought it was okay. I did about 1 hour of the post game stuff, but I mostly kind of like by the end of it, I was kind of teetering off of it just because like I guess I got a little demoralized because I have 3 of my Pokemon I wasn't able to like level up to full until really late in the game, and one of them was post game.
Like final form, or what do you mean?
What is
Yeah,
full?
like so I have a Crabrawler and a Magneton, both of which you have to be in basically the last area of the game. You have to level them up there before they can evolve. And so I had a Crabrawler for most of my entire
Yeah.
thing, and he was like my weakest Pokemon until I got him to a Crabominable.
Why did you stick with him?
Because he's a crab with boxing
I
gloves.
kind of liked him too.
Why?
His evolved form is
That's the
pretty
best
fantastic.
reason I've ever heard to keep
It's
a
a crowd with
Pokemon.
boxing.
Yeah.
Why did you? Why couldn't you evolve him till the end?
Because it has to be like in the snow-capped mountains or of whatever. And there was one that the Magneton can't evolve until you hit like some sort of lab or something in like
Really?
one of the later.
There were some
areas.
really dumb reasons for.
Yeah.
Speaking of dumb, I pulled a stupid move of like I had a Slowbro, and this is Pokemon Rookie 101, but I was like, man, I need that Slowking before I go into the Final Four because I got a Slowbro. Can't wait for him to evolve. And so I was looking for the King's Rock. There's like a different strategy of how to get the King's Rock. I had to use a friend and have her mine post-game stuff to get a King's Rock because you can't get the King's Rock unless it's attached to a Poliwhirl or in the post-game stuff. So I had this whole traded system just to try and get this King's Rock. Finally got the King's Rock. Nothing happened. And I forgot, of course, Slowpoke has to be equipped with the King's Rock and then evolves into Slow King. It's an either or. It's not Slow King in the third evolution. It's so stupid.
I had a Poliwhirl, so I had that exact same mission. And that's
Yeah.
the only thing I did post game was like, I'm gonna go get my King's Rock. I have my Politoed. He used Hydro Pump on Caterpie. I am turning this game off.
You know what? I feel like Pokemon's a little bit like life, you guys, where you spend your whole life saying, at some point I'll change this up. At some point I'm really going to get in shape, right? At some point I'm going to have my dream team. And then before you know it, the Elite Four's there. You're stuck with what you've got. You have to stick with your wife
You're getting
and
put
just
6
wait for
feet
the
down.
grave. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Turn it off immediately.
You guys also have that feeling of like at some point I'll have an ideal 6 team. Then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess I'm just committed to these idiots. Let's
Nah.
go.
That's exactly
Exactly.
how I felt with like this game.
Yeah?
100%. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll catch something better than these guys. And then I was like, oh crap, I got to replace this guy. Like, there's got to be something better.
There never is.
There never was.
I had 2 of my favorite Pokemon ever in my team, so I was
Who was
okay
that?
with it. Arcanine and Magneton.
Ah, old school.
But that's the thing is like those are all old Pokemon.
Yeah.
And like we talked about this last time, but I was like, I really think I should explore the new Pokemon. And
Mine was like half and half. I had
Yeah.
I had 3 new Pokemon, 3 older Pokemon.
I ended up with Mudbray was the
Yeah, Mudbray
starting,
was cool.
but he turned into
Mudsdale.
Mudsdale, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
I think he's like the coolest.
What are you talking about?
He's actually
I
You
don't
say
mind
that
Mudsdale.
sarcastically.
No, I think it's a funny poop horse, but it has a lot
He's ground,
of time
thank you.
on screen.
He's super sturdy. Like
yeah.
as
He's like-
opposed to Decidueye, who just dies
is my ringer.
instantly. He can take like 20
Yeah.
hits.
You want weak, try going for my Cutie Fly's evolution. It's like wearing the scarf. I thought
Cutie
it was
Pie.
It was thank you. It's bug and fairies. I'm like, this will come in handy in a funky way in the Final Four. It was just defense is like 12 at the end of the game.
Is that the one with the striped pants?
I don't
No.
think so. No,
No.
it's kind of got the cute little
It's like a little
ladies.
like fairy type thing.
I kind of
Yeah.
like the
Gotcha.
Cute Fly, the original version.
Yeah. Dan Tacchio, nothing but legendaries.
No, I told you. I'm just saying, I don't think that's the way at all. I think you should be exploring with all kinds of different Pokemon because it doesn't matter until the end game. If you want to have, like, your hardcore perfect 6, you do that, 20 hours post game, generally, and have them all, like, with the best moves, perfect stats.
So just experiment up to the Elite
yeah,
Four.
I think
But
there's
then
nothing
there's
wrong with
nobody
that.
to fight at that point.
You fight other players, right? That's
and
the
you
point.
take down other players and breed for what they've done.
Steal their Pokemon.
So I'm assuming we're going to get to this eventually, but like the post-credit stuff, like I was really excited when she was like, yeah, I'm going to Kanto.
Hang on, we're going to get to
All
that.
right.
We have a lot of great
Whoa.
emails from the community. Starting out with a little bit of feedback
yeah, you
from
didn't
last
see
time.
that, Dan.
No, I
Get
didn't.
ready. Chad Fujihara sent in an email that I really appreciate. I was hoping for somebody like this. Aloha, GI Crew. Chad says.
That's
Love
not the
it.
name of the
As
episode.
someone
goodbye.
born and raised in Hawaii, I was absolutely ecstatic when I learned that the next games would be based on my home state. And Game Freak really went out of their way to include tons of references to specific Hawaiian things, with many of the names, landscapes, language, and food. Just so you guys know, malasadas are this generation's poffins, which is from Diamond and Pearl. But real malasada, which were brought to Hawaii by Portuguese immigrants, are delicious deep-fried ball-shaped donuts traditionally rolled in sugar.
We're getting
Sounds
them.
great.
So donut holes.
Where are they at?
It's very much in a large donut hole. I actually Googled bakeries, Dan, because I was going to call them, but they were all closed last night because I was going to bring in a big tray
Right.
full of malasadas.
my
But like, I don't know how you would
not too
find
late.
that. Like it seems like a very regional, ethnic thing, and I don't know if there's a Hawaiian bakery around here.
There's gotta be one.
I think
That's an ethnic
the
thing.
louder you yell at a bakery over the phone, the more likely.
Yeah.
We can make it happen, believe me.
Also, Chad here wrote in, Hawaiian words abound in Alola. Kukui means a candlenut tree. Mele Mele, which is the first island, means yellow, which is the color of the island Oahu. Akala means pink, which is the color of the island Maui. And Ula Ula means red, which is the color of the island Hawaii. So they took the colors, the symbolic colors of each of the Hawaiian islands, and those are the names of the islands here.
So it's very similar to other Pokemon games.
Candle nut tree.
That's right.
Hey, I know a Hawaiian word.
What's that?
It is the state fish of Hawaii. Humu humu nuku nuku apua'a.
I want a soundbite of that.
King Kamehameha. Locally, we extend family terms like cousin, uncle, and auntie as a sign of respect or familiarity. Professor Kukui is most likely not related to your mom, just so you know, but since they're probably around the same age, he wants to be nice, so it's not that weird for him to call her cousin. Sometimes we'll shorten it to cuz, similar to how brother is shortened locally to brah. Anyway, I love the show. Keep up the great work. And Alola. Alola, Chad. Thank you.
That was great.
Thank you, Chad. That was a
Thanks,
good email.
cuz.
That was a very good
Email of the week.
If that
Is
was
how
if
it
that
works?
wasn't eligible for an email of the week, it should be one.
We still
Should
love
be.
him, Chad. Matthew Falvi says, after loving the last 3 game clubs, I originally thought Pokemon was going to be a pretty dumb idea for a game club. A game notorious for having a lame story and reused mechanics, but what would you talk about? But after hearing you discuss which Pokemon you had and strategies, I felt like I was back in high school around the lunch table. It's a totally different style of discussion, but refreshing as hell, especially after the dirge of human revolution. Thank you, Matthew. Sorry, Square Enix. I just finished listening to your first game club, and I was baffled, says TJ from Utah.
good.
All my friends have found this to be the most refreshing and enjoyable Pokemon game in years because of all the features you seem to dislike. The trials I've found amusing and far more difficult than any gym in years. Team Skull is incredibly entertaining, and the characters and story are interesting, but don't interfere with your personal story of becoming the best trainer in Alola. They said trailer. Anyways, unlike Black and White, who actually wanted to tell you the story of N with your journey being somewhat ancillary. I hope your minds have changed as you have continued to play more. TJ, it doesn't really sound like it. Oh, I guess I should point out that I thoroughly enjoyed this game. Unlike all these haters.
I
over here
enjoyed
at
it.
the
I just
table.
I
thought it was
Perhaps you didn't listen to what I said.
I know, I hear you.
I
Dan.
thought it was a good game.
There's actually no way of knowing how I feel about it. So.
There is a lot of feedback in this camp, but Jonathan Gerard writes in with a simple, Team Skull is awesome.
Doesn't even punctuate it either.
I know. It's very correct. A lot of people love Team Skull, so I'll take that as a point in my direction. Thor from California says, Hey, GI crew, was just listening to your game club, and you guys seem pretty down on the game so far. I've played every single generation of Pokemon games, so I thought I'd take a minute to address some of your criticisms and tell you guys why these ones are my favorites. Obviously, you guys didn't have the benefit of having played the second half of the game at the first game club, but even halfway through, Sun and Moon had my favorite story of any Pokemon game, with the possible exception of Black and White. I'm simply in love with these characters. I honestly like that I'm not being left alone for once, which seems like the opposite of all of our consensus. Just leave us alone. Pokemon has always had such empty worlds with incredibly flat characters who barely had any characterization. I really loved traveling around the world with the same 3 faces. Lily was always adorable. Kukui is being so involved in the story is really refreshing. It's nice to see a character so goofy being a competent father figure for once. And although How at first appeared to be the overly chipper, incompetent friend rival that the games have had since Gen 3, the reveal that this was a front for his serious insecurity issues redeemed him in my eyes, as he reminded me of myself and so many of my friends. Of course, Team Skull is the best team, and anyone who disagrees is heartless. I guess I didn't see that sweet side of How that you
I didn't
really
either.
did.
I sure as hell didn't see anything redeeming about Lily. She's a bubble of air.
Come on.
oh, let's
She's
see.
cool. She's got a cute ponytail.
Mautats, I'm
You're
sorry,
right,
I'm
Reeves.
butchering this name. Mautats tends to agree with you, Dan. He says, I find Lily aggravating to my very bones. I found I hated her the very moment I met her when she froze in horror as Nebby was being attacked. Then she spends all game kissing your ass about how amazing a trainer you are. You know what, Lily? Do me
hate
a
it when people do
favor.
that.
Give me Nebby. She does, basically.
Yeah, she does do that.
Although this person also says Team Skull, I find so refreshing and funny. Game Freak also takes the time to make fun of themselves with Team Skull. In the Team Skull hideout, which is amazing, by the way, they make fun of the fact that they all have the same name, Grunt, and you get a bit of the backstory with the Skull Leader and Professor Hairless Chest. What do you guys think of that hideout area?
Is that the like rundown hotel?
It's where you
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
You have to find the password and then like sit, and
All
yes
right, I
means
remember
no
that, yeah.
at the little door.
It's
like
very funny
that
because the core tenet of Team Skull is saying no. So I love that little twist gimmick joke of you have to put in the 3 passwords and then they say, "Are you sure?" Then you have to say no.
I thought that was one of the most interesting areas in the whole game, actually.
Yeah.
Just because like there's more to it than just like walking forward. Like you had
To
go
be fair,
catch-
yes, that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it wasn't, Dan.
It's basically the Resident Evil 1 mansion except with
Right.
Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was cool and it was interesting design and like I liked the little rundown Poke Center. At the
I
very
like the way
beginning.
they just splash paint everywhere.
No.
That's kind of their artistic choice.
Very Splatoony.
It's Splatoony, Home Alone 2-y, something in that
boxes.
vein.
It's what people
Front
who
of
don't do
doors.
graffiti think graffiti is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot I don't like about the Team Skull stuff, but it's interesting that Ben
That area
brought
was
that up
fun.
because I thought that area was probably the most well-designed area in the game because it had different areas to go to,
Yeah.
and things in those areas instead of just being a long tunnel.
And what about your boy Guzma? How do we stand on him?
He's an idiot, and he could have just not been in the game, and it would have been fine.
A lot
Yeah.
of people were upset that they kind of seemed ancillary overall to the larger picture. I liked Guzma. I thought he was funny. I mean, not as funny as the average grunt in the game, but I like that he has the history with Kukui and he's against the Pokemon League for whatever reason. I really was hoping that when he gets sucked into the other dimension, which we're going to talk about pretty soon here, which seems like a big plot point, I was hoping that like his mind would just shatter. He'd just become like Kurtz, just shattered soul in the ultra dimension,
mean,
not
I'd be
sure
okay
what's
with that.
happening. But instead, he's just like hanging out in a, I don't know.
We already had Crazy
corporeal
Metroid.
tree.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't even. I don't.
Here we're getting this fun stuff. David Lewis from New York says, to get straight to the point, I enjoyed the second half of the game just as much, if not more than the first half. This is mostly due to the amount of time and effort put into characters and story. I know that you guys have been critical on it, and in some cases simply writing it off, but I found the story to be engaging. While the twist about the Aether Foundation could be seen from a mile away, what I didn't expect was Guzma's involvement and the idea that they actually were involving lots of weird supernatural elements, especially when Nihilego and Lusamine fusing together. It was crazy and weird, but I loved it. I also enjoy the character arcs for Hao, Gladion, and especially Lily. Lily Defenders, everybody. They say, all in all, I spent about 65 hours in the game and still have much to do. The rest of my Ultra Beast collection, as well as the battle tree and eventually training up a new team to battle with friends, will keep me playing for hours. Overall, my experience with Moon has been extremely positive, and it will go down as one of my favorite generations. Now continue on to criticize the game for silly things like Pokeball designs. I love you guys. Thanks, David. Yeah, those Pokeball designs are BS. I agree. I don't care what's good about this game. Yeah, so you really seem to see the Aether Foundation twist coming, Dan Tack.
I did. I mean, it
also
was so
called it.
obvious.
It was broadcast.
Maybe I was just tuned out, and everyone.
I mean, but to be more tuned out to the story than me is very difficult, I assure you, and I still saw it coming.
I guess Lusamine had like a weird smile, but
Yeah.
you certainly didn't see the whole familial connection.
She had the
between-
stereotypical I'm going to be the god tier anime villain rising above the
Right.
common people.
But the fact that she was like their mom, like
I like
Lily's
the
mom.
familial aspect of everything.
Yeah.
I liked that and the brother.
I thought that was
pouting.
interesting, and like how much of a asshole she was apparently as a parent. Like I thought that was
it
interesting.
was weird. I'm with you. Like I think it was. Look, it's a Pokemon story. It's important to always keep it in that context. I thought it was maybe the most interesting at that point, just when it gets into the weird mother dynamic, where she's talking about how the daughter wasn't beautiful enough. Although, to her point, it seemed like Gladion did steal Null and run away.
That's
and the weird Nebby stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff that maybe she should be a little bit pissed about.
Oh yeah. Well,
But
there
just
was a scene where Lily's talking about like I just remember it raining one day and I came and cuddled with my mom in the bed. I'm like, wow, this is more heartfelt than I expected from a Pokemon.
that seemed to be the only point of Executor Island was to go sit in that cave and listen to
only-
Lily talk about her mom.
Did you
fought
immediately go
one
s-
executor and then left.
that's what I did.
Did you
Exactly.
go sleep in her bed after that?
No.
You can go
Was there a
find that
scene?
bed
I
and
did.
go take a nap in it.
That's
Oh,
weird.
Does she
Why would you-
comment on it?
I don't think so. I just,
So
I
there's
just remember,
nothing you can do.
Yeah, I just
It's
remember
your
no
little
point.
secret.
It's like, oh yeah, I heard of this bed. Let me give this thing a shot.
Did you like
See how it
smell the
goes.
sheets or something? You sick F.
What's this?
There was a
wet
really
spot?
odd cutscene of just like, just
Jesus, the
stuffing
wrong kind of
sheets in
gain.
your
I don't like
face.
the smell.
But the weird analogy that they make in this story between, because normally the beat that the drum that they always beat in Pokemon games is, hey, be nice to your Pokemon. They're like people too. And to come at it from the other angle of like, be nice to your children the way that you're nice to your Pokemon is a weird perspective on this entire thing. And she was really mean.
I do like the way Lusamine was just like completely called them out. Like, you know what? You guys do the exact same thing I do. You catch your Pokemon, and then when you're done with them, you send them to a box.
Right.
I don't.
I sent him to Pokemon Pelago.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They're all playing on islands in my
Yeah.
game. I don't know about you guys.
Dodging rainbow beans. They're all just thinking about them beans.
Mine explore caves and then bring me items. So
Oh, nice. Dan, I did take your advice and I started building up that
Did you
Pelago and whatnot.
Did you get it to the final tier? It's really handy.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, with all those beans. And, I think I crapped all over Suriel's points about, if you build them up, they'll do more critical hits and they might survive, all that stuff. It really does come in handy to just use those rainbow beans. I thought it would take a while, but it's like a couple minutes of just feeding them rainbow beans and they're good to go. Which is very funny, by the way, like feeding legendary Pokemon little rainbow beans. They're like, nom, nom, nom.
they always also
Does
do the
everybody
thing in
like-
combat where they're like they'll look back at you, and it started off as like, oh, I want them to appreciate me, like, oh, look, they know I'm there, but it ended up looking like a Jim Halpert stare where they're like, are you kidding me with this?
What really made me laugh is Decidueye, because when it turns, it looks like Michael Keaton's Batman trying to turn. So it's kind of like, like looking around at me, and it really makes me laugh. But it does come in handy. Did you end up doing that, Reeves?
No, well, I was just going to ask, so I did try to feed him a couple beans, but one of the Pokemon I
good for their
had
heart.
did not like any of the beans I fed him. So do rainbow beans, do they all love rainbow beans?
I have never had somebody reject.
Yeah.
They just didn't seem
The-
happy. They're like, what is this?
The only
crap?
time that
Try Yankee beans.
Pokemon rejected beans was when they're full, and so like they'll just like move their mouths away and stuff like that. But
Yeah, if
other
they're
than
full,
that,
they'll turn their heads.
Just eat the beans.
Did you guys see the thinking about those beans meme?
Thinking about those beans.
Because like, in battle, sometimes they'll say they're thinking about the beans, and so the internet's run with it, and just like dumb situations of people staring off with a little thought bubble from Pokemon, just thinking about them beans.
I got those beans.
But as far as like the ancillary,
Give me those beans.
the ancillary stuff, it really does come in handy. Like I got into Wonder Trading this round, always amazing. The GTS stuff is huge. The QR scan thing. It's crazy, but when I was scanning in, I would just Google randomly QR code and just cycle through it, and I thought I was capturing all those.
No.
No.
They're just registering in your Pokedex.
And but after you get 10, then you get the random Pokemon.
Right, and some of those were interesting. I think there was like a Rhyhorn, stuff like that. you
There
can scan
are ways
islands
to know
for.
which one it is.
Right. So on certain days, it's a certain one on certain islands. So
Is
you
that
gotta,
Yeah, so I got like all of the Johto starters on my team.
Oh, that's cool.
nice.
You
What
have to look
about,
that up online or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a chart.
Did anybody else think it was weird that the last island's called Pony Island?
Vast Pony Island, right? Or Vast Pony Canyon.
Well, that may be the canon. Isn't Pony
Why is
Island
that
that weird
weird?
arcade freaky game that came out earlier
yeah.
this year?
Well, it's spelled with a Y.
Oh, of course. All right, never mind. Jameson Rank writes in and says, the Aether Foundation has been just a blunder. I think it was supposed to be a surprise that they were all the bad guys, which was spoiled in the opening sequence when Lily is literally trying to escape their base. I don't remember that.
I don't either.
It didn't help that the branch manager, Faba, I love Faba's glasses, is basically just your mustache-twirling villain. You must call me branch manager. When you visit after Island 3, literally nothing is explained. You're in a place with people that were originally helpful and cool, and then suddenly you're in the base and, they kidnapped our friend, gotta fight him? I'm with it. That was
I did
really
notice.
And
It
then
was
one of
ve-
them
it was
helps
so
you
weird.
and
I
like,
was
doesn't explain
confused.
why.
I like that Gladion's like, this is chaos. We just got to keep charging ahead. And when it had a sense of momentum, it worked. But yeah, there's no explanation
No.
for like, hey, these friends are now just going up against you.
Right.
I think their design is cool. Anyways, I think you get healed 2 or 3 times in the base as well, leading to no sense of tension. The whole scenario was so ridiculous, and it was summed up by a Grunt's quote after a battle that I took a picture of it because I hated it so much, where he said, guess it's back to honest Pokemon conservation activities for me. What kind of evil corporation is this? Also, please, how in the name of all that is holy did they think the ridiculous frame rate drops whenever there was over 2 Pokemon on the field is acceptable?
I agree. They were nasty. Was definitely noticeable and very annoying.
Reeves, you're playing on a regular 3DS XL, not a new 3DS XL.
Right.
How was the frame rate on that?
It was noticeable.
It was noticeable on the new one.
Really?
So I figured that on the old one it'd be
How much of a hit did it take in the review, Kyle? Because when I was playing, it's like, this is unacceptably bad.
I don't know, man. It's a turn-based RPG. Maybe I'm just too forgiving, but like it doesn't affect the gameplay play per se. It just affects the visual. So I mean, yeah, it's bad, but it's not. It doesn't really hinder the experience.
I mean,
a
it's-
huge deal to me.
And that's a legit slowdown.
If it was an action game, that's a different story. But if it's a
Okay.
turn-based RPG, it didn't really
It
change
could just
how.
been a stationary image for you.
Yeah, I'd be fine with
Was
that.
it
No.
was it consistent on yours? Like, was it like because on mine on the new 3DS, it was like at the beginning it would stutter, and then like it was consistent, but it was still low frame rate. You know.
It would vary a little bit, but yeah, it was just the 2 battles, 4-person battles. Like it was just a disaster.
The big thing for me was just being surprised that it was even happening. Like
Yeah.
it didn't. Like I said, like you asked me specifically for the review. Like
Right.
I don't think it really changed my review sort of score for it. But I was just like, this should not be happening. I don't understand. These
Also-
aren't like that impressive character models. That, I don't understand.
And we talked. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
I'm genuinely surprised that made it through in a Pokemon game, like
Totally.
through QA. I can't believe
They already
that
stripped
stayed.
all the 3D out,
Yeah.
and it's still running like that.
Yeah.
I don't get
except
it.
for in the camera parts, which now that I see the entire breadth of the game, just cut that camera stuff. Were
How
they
often did you
desperate for
guys
like
do
a
that?
feature? I did it. I don't know, 4 times. It was always
Yep.
the lamest thing imaginable. If this is their way to satisfy Pokemon Snap fans, it's embarrassing.
Well, except you had to do it in the supermarket because that was part of the trial.
That's right.
Mimikyu. I think this might have been my favorite part of the game. Is that Mimikyu reveal?
That's
Okay.
probably the
That
best
was
part of the
pretty cool.
game.
Yeah.
It was awesome. being
He
this
was on my
freaky-
squad of 6 at the end. Like he's one of my favorite Pokemon.
Oh, really? What was he like to actually battle with? What was he like?
He's
oh
really
man, you
cool
select attacks and then he executes
because
them.
that
Damn.
Executes another Pokemon.
no, well
excuse me.
that disguise element. You know how you hit him once and then
Yeah.
his disguise. He has that when you have him. So like his first hit on him is basically free for you. It doesn't do any damage.
That's amazing. Is
So
his Shadow Claw move as much of a dick when you have it as it is when
the
you're
Shadow
fighting
Claw
him?
move. I think I still had it even when he was like level 65. Like
Nice.
it's pretty strong.
God,
He
that was
learned some-
devastating.
He
I
learned some fairy
died.
moves. Yeah.
What?
Did you guys die at any point?
I didn't
I
die
didn't even know he
a
had a
single
move. I think I
time.
one-shot him.
Oh my God. Maybe I just didn't have the right team.
Yeah, I
but
didn't die a single time in the game.
Oh, he annihilated me.
But anyway, he's cool. If you get him, he's hard to find. He's rare, but he's
Yeah,
worth
I-
it.
He's in that
I got him for
grocery
Wonder
store
Trade.
then after, right?
Right.
I went
Yeah,
back to the grocery store looking for him because I wanted him, and I fought like 10 of the same Pokemon, and they just left.
His spawn rate is really low.
It's really low.
5%, I hear.
Something like that. Yeah.
He says something weird when you see him too in that reveal when you like spin around. There's all those freaky pictures and paintings of Pikachu on the walls in that tiny room. Then he's standing right behind you. He says something like, "It's me," or just some nonsense like, "Oh, hello, talking Pokemon."
And then you got out of there, and the trainer was like, "There's no back room in that supermarket."
And there isn't, because when you go back, there's no.
Mimikyu's been dead for 30 years.
I love how they're all scared of ghosts in the Pokemon world, but it's just like. It's like the equivalent of insects in our world if they were all ghosts. Like, don't you think you'd stop being scared
Yeah.
of ghosts
They're
if you
everywhere.
see them all
They're
the time?
everywhere.
They're in Pokeballs in stores. Like,
Yeah,
this is
all
a
over the place.
terrifying
Also,
thing.
why isn't his name Mimichu? Because he's mimicking a
you.
Pikachu. He's not. What's a
Yeah, you
Mimi-
need to
He's not a
teach those
perfect
Pokemon
copy.
pun masters.
Yeah,
that
come
here
on,
to-
guys.
Get off your ass. Mana
He's mimicking you.
Hibiki says,
Doesn't make
"Hello, my name is Mana. I absolutely love Sun and Moon. Get ready for this humdinger, you guys."
Okay.
sense. What?
Mana says,
know
"It is
that.
my all-time favorite game."
Whoa!
Hang on, I would
I'm
like to
down.
know
Of all
what
time?
other-
Wow.
Does he give any context of
How
what
old
They
are
played
they?
other games?
8?
Yeah.
It's unclear. Maybe they're just talking about Pokemon games. But anyways, Mana says, Lily goes from being a useless, defenseless character that relies heavily on the main character of the game. Throughout the game, whenever Team Skull attacks her, we have to rescue her. If Nebby is out of the bag, why is Nebby out of the bag, they say. We have no choice but to retrieve Nebby and give it back to Lily. However, when her mother, Lusamine, gets a hold of Nebby and successfully opens a portal to the Ultra Space where the Ultra Beasts are, she transforms into her Z-powered form. They're
Yes.
really
We
pushing
all-
that hard. So when she puts on her adventure
We all,
gear.
is this a PR agency?
I think so. But was Lily happy, they ask? No. Although she still relies on you heavily when she changes, she still isn't that powerless girl who can't do anything. Anyway, secondly, the plot twist of Team Skull working for Aether Foundation, yada, yada, yada. Speaking of Team Skull, I absolutely love the scenario of Team Skull kidnapping Young Goose. Game Freak did a great job portraying the Team Skull villains told us when we go to their hideout. To add cherry to the whipped cream, the original soundtrack they had for the hideout fits perfectly. Yeah, all Team Skull music is awesome.
Soundtrack was glorious. No doubt.
you like it?
This was probably the best Pokemon soundtrack, I think, in a Pokemon game.
Wow.
Over like Red and Blue?
Yeah.
Wow. Woof.
I really liked it.
Interesting.
That was good.
On the Skull crew, Keegan writes in from New Jersey. He says, I finished the game, and I can easily say that Team Skull is the best part of Pokemon Sun and Moon. They're just a bunch of losers led by a bigger loser, and I love them for it. Guzma's character arc was interesting, with him being a victim of child abuse and just wanting to prove he isn't weak makes him sympathetic. I don't remember the child abuse angle.
I don't either.
I can see it. I can infer that. Sure.
Okay. Next, a lot of the game had threads dangling, which I hope Pokemon Star solves, which is the rumored Switch version. We'll see. And he wants more info on Guzma training with Halu, How and Lily's relationship. What happens in Kanto after Lily and her mom go over there? I feel like the game was held back by a lot of the 3DS limitations with frame rate drops and just looking ugly, which makes me even more excited for Pokemon Star. What did you think of that ending with so much Kanto talk? Is it just because in the Pokemon universe, Hawaii's close to Japan and therefore Kanto is close again?
I think they think that everyone loved Kanto a lot, so that's why it was.
Yeah, they have no
'cause
proof of
that
that,
wasn't
though.
the only part in the game where Kanto came up a bunch. Like it's featured prominently earlier as well. I think.
Yeah, and Kui before the Elite Four,
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I went to Kanto and challenged that guy with the cape with all the dragons.
It is fun when they have callbacks like that.
Now,
I like that.
I believe I finished the game before the Switch rumors started happening. So and I think I even mentioned this on the podcast when we talked about Pokemon. My first thought was like, oh, they're teasing a return to Kanto for the next entry of Pokemon. Like whatever the
that'd be
next
interesting.
Pokemon is, whether it's 3DS or a Switch game. I was like, we're going back to Kanto. It's not going to be a remake of Red and Blue, but we're going to return to that region, and we're going to see
I
it
would
from a
love
new
that.
perspective.
That would be exciting,
Remember
and I'd be up
Kanto?
for that. But I think Kat Bailey from Eurogamer or US Gamer already posted this on Twitter, but I agree, where it's like people wanting a Red and Blue 2, that's just this back half of Gold and Silver. Like you already have that experience of like seeing everything updated. I'd still love to see it a third time, I guess.
Did anybody think you were going to go back to Kanto in this game?
I thought-
I thought for a
I
minute,
did.
I was like, wait a minute, I wonder if we're going to go
like San Andreas style.
I
like a
honestly thought it was
single-
gonna. I was gonna be like, you go back with her.
Well,
to,
like with Gold
to
and
Kanto.
Silver.
Yeah,
it's
Gold
like
and Silver.
here we have a whole second half of the game you can play.
No, I didn't
that'd
think
be
that
a
because
big
people would have
second
been
half.
raving about that on Twitter and losing their minds about it. But on that note, Benjamin Wiggins, great name, writes in and says, I really like how it seems that Game Freak has been trying to appeal to the OG Pokemon gamers by tossing in handfuls of the first 150. I feel like this happened with X and Y. I mean, you get it in the starter, but even more so with Sun and Moon. Game Freak is really tapping into their core demographic with the Alola forms and even going back to the XY with Mega Evolutions of classic Pokemon. Some of the story elements are a bit much for me, and I can see why they included them, but the beginning was very hand-holdy and even continues to be so. As someone who got lost in the Viridian Forest for 2 real days as a child, I can appreciate how the game guides young minds through the even more complex than Kanto world. A lot of Kanto fan service. The biggest question about Kanto with me is How saying that he's Brock's son?
What?
Oh, I didn't make that connection.
I
Where
didn't
did
make
that
that
come from?
connection.
What? At the end of the game, How said he's going to go to Kanto because he needs to reunite with his dad, who's a really strong Pokemon trainer.
Oh, it's Brock.
It's got to be, right? I don't know.
Brock was a Pokemon breeder or something.
Well, no, he's
The gym leader.
Yeah, he's
That's in
gym
the
leader.
anime.
Oh, that's right.
Do we
'cause
know where
he's the
this
rock
when this takes
leader.
place canonically? And then can we figure this out?
Year.
Well, there's like 4 timelines,
That's a
and
good
then this
question.
takes place in timeline A.
It is. I'm guessing it would help if we did the post game content because Red
Yeah.
does appear, and so they probably explain that. But clearly, it's after Red's adventure then. So the Brock connection would make sense, which would mean that the Kahuna of the first island would be Brock's dad. Unless, write in, please let me know if there's somebody else that it could be. I don't know if it's just a racial shorthand to be like, it kind of looks Brockish. Let's
Yeah.
go with him. Call
There's
it a
always
day.
Oak's. Well, there's also an Oak's cousin is there, right? So we know that it's Oak's still alive,
Right.
Or it would have been
Still
hit during
alive.
his era.
I think we would have heard of his death.
If it
Kyle.
had been like Oak's nephew or something, then we could have
2016 just
inferred
keeps
that it was
taking all
much
our
further in the
favorites.
future. But
Yeah. Hey, Suriel, this isn't specific to you, but just because I'm sick of my voice, do you want to read this big write up on the ending from Hazel
Hanson's
Muhammad?
sick of hearing his
Sure.
own voice.
I was not
Happens
prepared
all
for
the
this.
time.
Miracle.
Hey, GI guys and gals. Just got to the credits on Pokemon Sun, and to be honest, the journey felt somewhat anticlimactic. The way the plot twisted with all its might at the Ether Foundation, it felt that the confrontation with Lily's mother was going to be this huge encounter. You get not 1, but 2 magical flutes. You get access to a legendary that can cross dimensions. And the payoff for all that epic grandiosity, you get to see an Ultra Beast engulf Lusamine, and you fight 5 of her Pokemon.
That
What
was
a-
lame.
What a wasted moment. Instead of confronting the Lusamine Ultra Beast hybrid, you get the equivalent of a trainer battle. And what happens when you finish the Elite
Hang on
Four
a second. Let's break that down. She does become like a Final Fantasy
Yes.
in-game
Yeah,
boss.
I thought we were gonna fight her.
and then check it out, Pokemon.
I thought it was going to be a very epic battle.
Yeah, it was a hell of a cutscene, like the sky opening up, all this crazy nonsense going on.
I was like, and, you're in another dimension.
Right.
It's super cool.
I mean, she
Yeah.
does power up her Pokemon. I think that's the effect she
But
has on the.
That's why I want to become a god, so my Pokemon get more powerful.
Well, I mean, it is slightly different than all the other fights, but yeah, it's still.
Wait,
it's
It was
kind of-
totally a Final Fantasy
What
twist.
was the deal with the flutes? I don't.
That's how you summon the.
That's how you summon the
That's how
Oh,
Nebby
that's right,
becomes
yeah.
the legendary.
I don't even remember using them.
Which
It's very fast.
the whole Nebby thing, does that mean it's an evolution? Like Nebby evolves into
It's a flute evolution.
yeah.
okay.
Let's go with that.
You got to
Okay,
trade it with
anyways,
the flute.
flute
there's
evolution.
more to break through here.
Flute-olution, yeah.
And what happens when you finish the Elite 4+1 encounter?
Evolution.
You're shuffled off to a Tapu fight. I mean, couldn't Game Freak at least given me a chance to save so I could try to catch Tapu Koko? Such a strange game design choice given the chances the game gives you earlier to save when you need to. It was at this point I started to tune out the game while it attempted to tug on my heartstrings with the Lily departs from Kanto, still miffed at missing the chance to capture a Tapu. The slideshow at the end was cute, and I'll probably work on the game after game content. But as a whole, Sun was mostly memorable for the guided pacing and the best Kahuna in Nanu. The fact that he rolls up at the end of the Luzamine plot thread and asks if you want to follow him to the Elite Four challenge while flashing that smirk was worth the previous 30-something hours. Oh, and if you guys and gals have been dealing with the Pelago stuff, am I wrong in assuming that Mon is Lily's father? If so, why doesn't the protagonist tell her and Luzamine about their missing father/husband just whiling the days away taking care of my Pokemon? Looking forward to the next game club. Yakuza 0 maybe? It's been a fun ride.
No, but thank you so much,
great
Hazel, for
suggestion.
writing it.
I think it's been a fun ride.
No, I completely agree. I just was talking about the Yakuza Zero stuff. Yeah, I didn't get that hint of who Lily's father might be. The Pokepelago man?
I think
Why
he
is
figured
he-
it out. I think
Why-
we've gotten
why,
to the
though?
bottom of this mystery. He's out on that island. He's very ashamed of his deeds.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
He lured in Lucamine with those hot beans.
Hey, you want some beans?
I can
got
totally
some
see this.
beans.
Like he wanted a simple, pure life, and Luzamine's a power-hungry, crazy. So,
Oh,
like,
jeez!
But
Christ!
why?
Whoa.
Where's the connection drawn? Where
Can't
they
drop a hard
Why
beat.
did they
Drop an
decide that that
explicit
was the
tag on this
father?
Well, we're
podcast.
gonna have to beep that out. But
no shit.
I feel very passionate about this.
About
these
hating
characters.
Lucamine.
About these powerful characters that really got to my heart during the
guess
course of this game.
But speaking of powerful characters, I will go on the record once and forever. Nanu is the best character in any Pokemon game ever.
He is fantastic.
That weird Kahuna, weird emotionally distant Jeff Cork cop who just looks
yes.
depressed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you're going into Po Town, he's like, "Yeah, I live around here. The rent's cheap. I don't know, it's haunted."
I like him a lot.
I thought he was super weird.
He's so
I
weird.
loved
I liked
him.
him.
He like actually like he like weirded me out when I was playing that game. I'm
Yes!
Like, what is with this?
He was
Yeah.
the best
creepy
character
old
in this
dude.
game by
As far as a
far.
distinct, clear personality, it's not just bubbly. He's just like he
Yeah.
says, "Yeah, go ahead and head in here. You might have to join Team Skull, or I'll send your remains to your parents."
Yeah.
Jesus
I also-
Christ.
I also
felt
like
like
that
some
he has-
very, I
go
felt like
ahead.
some very sad, drunk Japanese businessman was writing this guy. Like,
Yeah,
just like
it was great.
Yeah, that's funny.
I was really, it was
It was
really
so
weird.
good.
No, that doesn't make it good.
Oh, it was good.
It didn't fit the story at all.
It made
But
you
then-
feel something. That means that's a big step
Yeah,
for Dan
but
Tack.
then later on with him, when he comes back and he's like, "I'm the Kahuna," and then he does like the Z
Yeah.
pose, just super
It's like the
lazily,
most absurd
I
one.
love
and then he literally just says, "There, congratulations" or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so good. It really just feels like Jeff Cork.
the
in
fact that he
game.
doesn't
Alright.
care about anything, but he still has like these responsibilities he feels like he must fulfill.
He's invited to be at the Elite
Yeah.
Four at the end, and he didn't go. So
He's also
Ace
in the ending.
Rockola or whatever her
He
name
believes
is,
in
takes it
nothing.
over.
He's
Yeah,
also in the
he believes in
ending. He's like
nothing.
hiding in the
Yeah,
tree,
I like
and he
that.
just pose again, and he's
Smirking.
like,
Just
whatever.
waving.
He comes back in the end game stuff when you're looking for Ultra Beast.
Really?
Well, now I gotta play it. I gotta see more
I
now.
I'm
wanna
back
play
in.
it now.
I'm back
You
in.
will find out a little
good.
bit of his history.
I'm back in.
Yes.
Nanu. Catherine writes in and says, "I played through the main story and have done the post-game missions. I found the introduction to Ultra Beasts odd, and I'm still wondering if they are even Pokemon. What is happening with Pokemon? Is it done, or are they just trying to introduce us to Digimon through Pokemon? I'm confused." Oh, what are Ultra Beasts?
Well, we did ask them if they're running out of ideas recently, Hanson and I.
yeah, what'd they say?
They were just like, no, of course not. What's wrong with you?
Click.
Also, are the Zy things that go in the cubes, are those Pokemon?
I
Zygardes.
read through that Zygarde description 1,000 times about
yeah.
assembling, disassembling. There's 8 layers of menus trying to explain what this is. It's like, oh, I just gotta whip up your Zygarde and bring it to a Zygarde course. I don't know the first word that you're talking about. What is a Zygarde?
I didn't get into it, but I think it builds up to like there's a 3-formed Pokemon that you can kind of
That's fine.
build
but
up into.
as far as like, let me put the things I collected into this and then give me a thing. Like that is, it feel like is the core here, but there's like 7 layers to that where it wants to pull from a Zygarde in my teams. I don't know what the F it is. So anyways, I eventually got to 50% of the Zygarde little things. I don't know what you guys got to and went back there. Did you guys collect the Zygarde
Yeah,
beast
I was
thing?
higher than 50%, but like still, it didn't trigger anything. It didn't tell me what to do.
Well, you
So
got
I
to
was
go
like,
back.
And you have to go
where you
through a
got it.
specific version. It's like a puzzle trying to figure out which menu option. But eventually I got it, and it's like this weird, it looks like a Hydralisk from StarCraft. It's a
Okay.
funky looking freaky thing if
that's
you get
cool.
over 50. If you're at 10%, then it's a little puppy dog.
Aw.
But it looks cool. Like I want to
Okay.
use it in the post game stuff. Comes in at
All right.
level 50. Let's see. This is from Cade in Australia, y'all.
Nice.
He says, "Hey Ben and crew, prior Pokemon games only ever had two types of statements: something to progress the story and how much the NPC loves their Pokemon. It's nice to see a bit more humor and deeper meaning to what a character says sprinkled throughout." I agree. It seemed like the writing was a little bit better in this one. Still confusing as all hell oftentimes. I actually thought the Rodham dialogue was like the highlight. I thought it was kind of funny at times.
And the
I
Pokédex.
hated Rodham.
Yeah, and the
Pokédex
Pokédex,
stuff?
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, on a more specific note, an encounter you have in the cemetery on the first island with a woman who's being held by her Machamp as she talks about the accident her husband and her had in front of his grave was genuinely heartwarming and almost brought a tear to my eye. Did you
Wait,
guys
talking
hear
about
this?
talking about an accent or accident her husband had was heartwarming.
Yeah, so here it is. Tyler wrote in about this as well. I guess we completely missed this. Alola, GI crew. Alola, Tyler. I've been listening to the podcast since the Matt Helgeson days. Thank you. This is the first time I felt I needed to write in. I just finished listening to the episode of the Game Club and was shocked when you spoke about the strange dark crap in this game. We don't call games crap, Tyler. In this game, and no one mentioned the weird-ass graveyard scene. If you go to the graveyard on Mele Mele Island after dark, you'll see a Machamp carrying a person next to a grave. If you talk to this person, she reveals that she's lamenting her lover who was killed in a crash while riding a Pokemon. She then goes into detail about the grief she and her Pokemon feel, even going so far as to tell a random 10-year-old how she had spent time blaming the other person in the crash and how her Pokemon was traumatized by the accident and won't go back in its ball. Seriously, what on earth makes the Kahunas think letting children ride these things is a good idea?
Also, what on earth drove someone to think that is heartwarming? I think there's a different word that we're looking for here.
Well, she's talking about missing her husband.
I didn't encounter it in game, but I did see it on Reddit later, and it is sweet. Like it is a woman remembering.
That's heart wrenching is the word we're looking for.
It can be
Okay, this is
remembering
semantics.
loved ones is not heartwarming.
Who were
Something-
tragically killed in an accident.
That's
How
yeah.
else are you supposed to remember?
But it
this?
explains why she's dressed up like an American gladiator every time your character has to ride on a Pokemon. Even like when Machamp is just like
Yeah,
walking
wear your
around with
helmet.
you,
That's
like the
a-
bodyguard.
Quick aside, did you guys talk about Machamp carrying you in the
No.
first episode?
No,
Okay.
that came out.
No, when I
It's the last
unlocked
one
that,
you
I was
get.
like, "What the hell is this?"
Well, it
I
makes
loved
sense
it.
because he has 4 arms, so he can
It
use
was
2
great.
to push. And
he has to put on gloves to touch a human being.
yeah, otherwise it burns your skin.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
It's kind of like a rogue situation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was carried by Machamp as much as possible. Never wanted to leave his loving arms. But because Mr. Australia Cabe wrote in about the dialogue, I captured some of my other favorite lines from trainers if you guys are up for.
Do share.
All right, here we go.
We should all read them off in order.
Oh, like on the list? Well, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, let's just
Here we go. So this guy says, "Clean, clean. The fighting style of janitors is also clean." Do you guys want to do the intro to battle music after I say these?
That's profound.
Okay,
right
thank
there.
you. When Poliwhirl is on the ground, its sweat makes it slippery. So when you touch it, it feels slimy in a good way. I want to put a siren on Tauros and make it exclusive to police officers. Thank you, Suriel and Reeves. You're playing along. I wonder if Actually, I don't think this was a trainer, but we'll go with it. I wonder if Pokemon can see microwaves transmitted between parabolic antennae. I've evolved from a swimmer, so I'm a hiker who can swim. I'm an office worker, or you could say, I'm a business guy. I want to do business with Pokemon. This is all the same guy. And then his conclusion is, for example, I could use the pincers of Crabballer, which grow back constantly. This guy, before the battle, says, abs, abs. Then after the battle, he says, if you go on a date at the beach, you can see your girl's swimsuit. That was after the battle, but yeah, that was weird. And
is some good
this is
advice.
after the battle as well. This person says, who can I take out the sadness of this loss on? Anyway, sadness for me and Team Skull.
It's like, who can I take this sadness out on? Just like, let me look around. Just like, who do I make eye contact with that I have to
Who's
go?
gonna pay for this?
The first Pokemon.
I'm hoping one of you can explain this. This person says after the battle, Wimpod, I don't get stoked unless it rages to the point of running about.
Well, of course.
What does that mean?
I think I just hit
It's
random.
just- it's cool.
a randomizer.
It's such relatable
Random
content.
It's like
series
when
of
you
words.
use your iPhone and it like fills in the sentence for you.
And I just
Yeah.
kept doing the next word.
In the Team Skull headquarters, I'm an incomplete grunt. This is the only place for me in the whole world. This is after a battle. Later days, Team Skull, ellipses. Farewell, my misspent youth.
I get it.
Let's see.
do you?
This trainer, this is the Aether Foundation. I'll crush you to find out what you're made of. I bet it's a bunch of stuff, including money.
I like that one.
And then another Aether Foundation saying, it's not a particularly original line, but wherever there is light, there is also shadow. And then this,
after or
We've
before?
lost a lot of steam on this.
that's before. And then this trainer just says, the highness of caliber to triumph while reacting to the feelings of your opponent. That is literally just a sentence in here.
That's just
They wrote-
that's like a really bad.
you have to get these
translation.
sentences in here, and they'll just like do like the word processor stuff when you're trying to learn typing, and there's just like random words.
I don't know if I've ever read, outside of Nine, who's great dialogue, I don't know if I've ever read dialogue in Pokemon games. It doesn't just feel like, this is filler. This is just, I can see a word count in someone's mind, and they're like, respect your little guys. Anyways.
What? We'll edit it out.
It's all like
Pretty
two.
accurate.
It's like all 2 cent stories. Like, oh, I'm very sleepy, and then you'll beat them, and it's like, looks like I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, it's
Like,
exactly that. I agree. They're all Hemingway-esque stories. Anyways, Victor Romero.
Compelling arcs.
Victor Romero writes in, I don't know if this is true, but Victor Romero writes in, he says, did you know that the 3DS games, starting with X and Y, take place in a different dimension than the games before that?
What?
Is that confirmed?
Each Pokemon story has been pretty weak, but they generally recently have been adding a lot of lore to the games, and all the mysteries left make me excited for the next game already. So he's saying X and Y is in a different dimension than this one, which doesn't make
Sure.
sense because there are characters that carry over. What? Like the one in the Zygarde thing, like Sinnoh, whatever.
I don't think
Yeah.
so. I don't think that's
Anyways, Kenny Garcia says, this game
Wait,
finally...
Kenny G?
Yeah, Kenny G writes in and says, this game finally did justice to us player with the Elite Four, being where in previous games becoming the champion was an empty goal. No one did anything special. However, Sun and Moon made it feel like a true accomplishment. I do agree. Like, maybe
No.
they're not the most difficult. I still sweat bullets going into it. I trained way too much, worried about it. But the story context, I think, is interesting about like Kukui considering Alola, the entire region, to be this underdog. Like, this is our one shot at being in the Pokemon League with the big leagues. Like, we can be just as competitive as them. I like that weird underdog, and I like
And then they
the
were
angle.
completely lackluster.
That's true, but it's their first time. And then you
But
were
this
the
is like,
first.
all right, this is gonna be our triumphant moment where we prove we can stand toe to toe with any other region's Elite Four, and you just blow right through them on the first try.
But then they call you the first ever champion.
Yeah,
That's
and
kind
then
of
there's
cool.
a giant. There's like literally a giant party for you. Like everyone celebrates.
I
because
just-
they did it.
I didn't find any of the combatants or their Pokemon compelling. Like in some of the other games, you've got them with their like they have their iconic. It's like, oh god, I know he's gonna drop that thing on me,
throw a Dragonite out.
right? And that's like, that's big. Shit. And then like these guys are just like, yeah, I've got the same stuff you saw on a tree 17 hours ago. Look out!
They were so much easier than X and Y's Elite Four.
For me, this was like
harder.
Sort of the part where like my not having played these games for a long time kind of factored into it, because like they'll like usually like in the older games, this trainer's about to send out this particular Pokemon. It's like, oh, I know what that is. I'll send out I'll try to counter it. But this one, I didn't know half of these names, so it's just like a potluck of like, what are they gonna send out? I don't know any of these names. Should I go look it up? Probably not, because I'll read it
You
anyway.
always just pick apart the name. Like, oh, it says tree in it, so it's gonna be a grass Pokemon.
Well, I mean, yeah, but like there were some of them. Like,
Well, did you
No,
guys
it is good. It's
did you
okay,
guys
it's
like that
confusing.
it basically kept track for you?
I
Like,
love that.
Yeah,
It's
that
so
I was a
nice.
big fan
Yeah.
of that. Yeah.
They've
Especially
added
like
so
before
many
you
different
swapped
types.
out
Yeah,
Pokemon, you can see that full list. That's
It's very
huge.
handy.
I do
Very
like that,
handy.
Very
I don't think
handy.
it cheapens the experience at all.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
Reeves
see.
liked it a little too much.
No.
Kenny G also says spoilers.
I thought you were just doing James from Team Rocket.
Kenny G, he's my favorite.
The post game for the game is relatively light. Catching all the Ultra Beasts and meeting Annabelle and Looker was fun. I'm curious to see who those people are.
Yeah, they're cool.
And defending our championship title was great.
Whoa.
However, the Elite Four did not change their roster, and there's little to do after it besides catching the Tapus, facing Red and Blue in the battle tree.
What?
Have you done that Red and
I
Blue
haven't.
stuff?
I'm on the last Ultra Beast.
Oh my god.
Do
Okay.
you have to do that before you face?
Apparently, yeah.
That's going to be really fun. There's your fun endgame stuff, guys.
Come
Going
on.
on.
Hey,
This sounds
there's always a post game. It's just like I said. I didn't. Now that I hear that you get to fight Red and Blue, I'll definitely be considering.
I do.
doing
I
that.
like the Ultra Beasts as well. I think they're fun to go after, and I think they're cool.
Are they in the
designs.
Pokedex though?
Yes.
So they are Pokemon.
Yeah, they are. I mean, in that
Yeah.
sense, they are in the Pokedex. One's made of like freaking power cables and outlets. But I'm like a sucker for like an animate object Pokemon. Like everyone
really
always
given up,
yells
haven't
about
they?
Klefki, and I'm like, I
Oh
love
yeah,
Klefki, man.
the
Klefki's my
keyring
favorite.
Pokemon.
I love
That's the best
Klefki.
stuff.
Few people know that Kyle actually married an inanimate object as well. He's a huge fan.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a huge fan.
It's a
It's a huge fan.
Yeah.
So let's see. Eduardo from Brazil writes in all over the world, you
Whoa.
guys. Isn't that great? He says, "Hey, duders." Oh, wait, no, different podcast. "Hey, GI crew. I was wondering what your thoughts are on the variety of monsters available on the first 2 islands. I like to have plenty of options from the beginning when playing the game. I only care about the story mode and building a team to face the Elite Four. But if a player is not into the QR scanner stuff or Wonder Trades, it's going to be really hard for them to come up with 4 good monsters before they visit Aether Island for the first time."
I mean, yeah, I agree. It seemed very, very limited and restrictive in those first few islands.
I feel like it always does. Maybe just the island structure of the overall game makes it more defined. But early on, it's always frustrating. Like, God, I need a
There's
decent
always
electric, and there's nothing.
There's always a limited pool. I agree with you, but it seemed even maybe a little bit more so in this one. I can't prove that. I mean, just anecdotally.
A lot
just
of
felt
bug
that
and
way.
flying.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's
I
not
had a
out of the
lot of
ordinary.
flying
I
in
guess,
mine.
but-
Yeah, I think I traded Kyle for a Mudbray early on, and I had him, but that was it.
Here's a dumb question. You know how there's all those Pokemon that only evolve when you trade them? What are they going for with that?
That's sort of a grandfathered in.
I understand that, but is the idea that you don't just trade it and then trade it back right away? That it's
Everybody
just
does
to
that.
incentivize gifting?
Well, I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. It's a way to encourage you to communicate with people
Yeah.
around you and play Pokemon.
I guess like the communication angle. I
Yeah.
guess even if you trade it right back,
It's not
just
so much about the in-game aspect of it as much as the social aspect.
I
of
do
it.
like that they added a lot of NPCs that want to trade, and like there was one in particular who traded just so it would evolve.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I didn't
interesting.
Yeah, like
know
I
that
traded a Haunter for a Graveler, and they obviously both evolved when they traded.
Oh, speaking of Graveler, Geodude, Graveler, and Golem. Woof. Someone beat him with the ugly stick.
Especially Golem. Like,
Golem is a mess.
what happened?
one. He's just like the Alola form.
It's the Alola form.
Yeah, he's just got Osama bin Laden's beard on his face all of a sudden.
It's like the Flexo version of Golem.
Yeah.
where
By the way, I
he's
realized this is the
weird.
second Pokemon Game Club where I referenced Osama.
It is.
What about Doug Trio and with it just a blonde wig?
Oh no, that's beautiful.
Okay.
I hate Doug Trio's look.
Yeah,
so
you know,
stupid.
I fought so many freaking Zubats, Doug Trio. Why is it always the same freaking Pokemon? There's like hundreds of them in
It's
the game.
fan service. Come on.
Those are the only.
yeah,
fat
everybody's
Pokemon.
favorite Pokemon.
Zubat.
Doug
This
Trio.
time it's got hair.
Eduardo also says, in addition to that, 2 questions. What were your levels before facing the Elite Four? And what is the best monster you got through Wonder Trade? Wonder Trade, probably Ice Vulpix before I could catch one. That was huge. Did you guys do Wonder Trade at all?
I did not do.
No.
I got
Anything good.
Like I said earlier,
It's really good?
I got a Mimikyu.
Yeah, I mean, I understand being frustrated by the lack of diversity amongst Pokemon on the first couple islands, but if you do get into the scanning stuff and Wonder Trade stuff, like Dan's saying, GTS Trade, like it's colossal, and I think it's fun to have such powerful little side modes.
So something I learned, speaking of like the diversity of Pokemon, is like the big thing that the Pokemon company's been pushing in recent years has been the Pokemon Bank, and that's not compatible with this game yet. I guess.
Even with X and Y, it took a while before it came online.
Like that's so weird to me that like I don't know.
See, we talked about this earlier. Like that is like for the hardest of hardcore. Like that's for the people who are going to be playing Pokemon months into release. Like it doesn't seem that strange to me for them to take a little bit of time to get it to be compatible.
Maybe. Have you guys ever talked to, maybe Dan Tech is one of these people, but every once in a while I find myself talking about high-level Pokemon play, and it's awesome and mind-blowing. I wish we could Skype in the Pokemon champion, but just people who know every numerical breakdown of every move and who's like top tier and which moves, like that is a world that is just unfathomable to me, and I consider myself a fan.
One of our interns from this last set posted a story like last week, I think, about where he interviews a couple of Pokemon
really?
pros. Yeah.
What's it called?
What was it called?
Interview of Pokemon
Yeah,
pros.
yeah. The tips from the Pokemon pros.
I need to look that up.
Yeah.
All right.
I missed
Kind
that.
of cool.
That's a weird life. But anyways,
Weird life.
Weird life. Levels before facing Elite Four. Where were you guys at? I wanted to get all mine to 60. So I was
Wow.
between 60 and 68, I think.
I was between like 55 and 70.
I think my highest was like 59.
I think I'm with Shea. I was about the same place.
I think
I was like anywhere from like I think my Gengar was like 46 and my Primarina was like 59.
Did you have trouble?
I had to do some revives, but like I didn't have like particular problem with any of them.
I think my highest was at 54 when I started,
Wow.
and I think my level curve actually very well followed the curve of like the leaders, because they would just level up after every fight, and so each one got sequentially harder.
Did you have to go left to right, or you could go to any
could
of
do
them?
it in any
at
order.
I went right to left.
You can do it in any order.
Yeah, you can.
My guys were 50 because like I said, I was trying to speed. You know, I wasn't trying to speed through, but I really wasn't timing.
You just said you were trying to speed.
Okay, fine. I was trying to speed through, and they were like 50, but they still didn't have any problems. So
Okay. I'm very proud that I used a muck through the entire game. First time I've ever done that. I
love
like the
Muck.
muck because they're eating garbage.
Muck
and
is great.
Alola, they
Is
talk
that
about
weird
a lot.
rainbow one, right?
Yeah, rainbow. I love just poisoning the bejesus out of them.
poison is so strong.
It's so great. Let's see. Jared from Indiana says, "Hey, AGI crew. So I have 2 questions for you. When do you guys use your Master Ball? And whose idea was Professor Kukui, and why haven't they been fired? He is the worst.
He's probably my favorite character in that
Kukui's
game.
fine.
He's probably my favorite
Not
character in the
as
game.
Leave him alone, Jared.
He's fine.
Did you guys use your Master Ball?
I
and
thought
win?
about using it on Nebby, but I didn't.
I
have
did
to.
immediately.
I used it on Nebby.
I didn't.
I used it on Nebby immediately. I was like, just let's get this game
Oh wow!
done.
Look at this cutscene where it comes on. It's all official. Check this out. Ah, got him.
Exactly. Yeah.
I had this great moment with the legendary where I threw a quick ball and got it.
Really?
And
I tried that on
I couldn't
both,
have
and it
not
didn't
been
work.
more happy about that. Using a quick ball on a legendary and it worked. I was so happy.
I caught Solgaleo or Solgaleo on with a dusk ball, and I caught the Tapu thing with an ultra ball.
So-
I didn't even try and catch Tapu, Kapu.
I
whatever
just
the hell
killed
it
him.
is.
Who's
I
Sun
just killed
and
it.
you guys? Some of you were Sun, some
Sun.
right? Because I ran into that sequence with the legendary where it was like, well, we better wait for daytime, and I was like, oh, son of a. Like I thought I was gonna have to like come back, open the game, but then thankfully it just like
switches
jumped ahead,
to it,
which
yeah.
I was very happy about.
Oh, nice.
And then I threw a quick ball, and I just had a great experience with that legendary.
Why didn't you tell me to use a quick ball? Ah, I wish I would have done that.
God,
I tried it, it didn't
dude,
work.
I spend all my money on quick balls.
Quick balls are very powerful.
yeah,
in
they're
this
so
game.
good.
Wow.
They're just way better the first time you use them.
That's their advantage is if you use them right
them
away,
first.
they have a higher chance of catching the Pokemon. So like you throw
So
out a
you
quick
don't
ball
even
right.
like hit anybody.
Yeah.
with it?
Nothing. Yeah, if you throw a quick ball and it doesn't work, then you move to your regular tactics.
Oh, interesting.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Hamish McComb says, I love the stories, the characters, the new starters. The map feels more open and real. I hate the water feels less explorable, even though you're in an island region. Also, Professor Kukui has his lab coat on for too much of the game, and how needed more character development. But that is true. There's not really much time floating around in water at all.
There's some semi-explorable water areas,
But never in between two bodies or two land bodies.
They're all.
That's,
They're all yeah.
Do you guys think that's a response to IGN's review? The
Well,
too
you
much
said
water
there was
meme?
a reference to it.
There's no longer too much
Yeah.
water.
Well, I asked them about that. Do you think that will there be too much water in this game? And they took it as the joke it was and said, no, there's you won't be swimming a whole lot even though it's on islands. And then the other thing is when in the photo mode,
That's what it is.
someone will, if you know how you get scores or whatever, someone will say like too much water, 7 out of 8 or 7 out of 10 or whatever.
That's really good.
But I do wonder if they saw that feedback because it became that internet meme. If they because it became a meme because it's kind of a strange criticism of the game. But I wonder if the Pokemon company looked at it and was like, oh, I guess people don't want too much water in the game.
So based on the thinking about them beans meme, does that mean that they're going to include more beans in the future?
Oh, just
We'll
nothing
think
but
about-
beans.
Yeah, you're thinking about the beans.
Just be throwing
No
beans
Pokemon,
instead
just
of
all
Pokeballs.
beans.
Connor from Virginia here. Hello. Pokemon Sun was excellent. This is the perfect example of a series constantly making small improvements with each entry. So much so that I argue it's the best one yet. Seriously, aside from the Pokemon designs, who would argue that the older Pokemon games are still the best? People who say the old ones are the best are driven by nostalgia. I say, no way this isn't the best in the series.
I mean, that's so complicated of an issue.
Sure.
Like,
There's
think
so
about
many
when
quality of life things here.
we were linking back with freaking Game Boy cables back then, and now we have all these online features and like sort of the daily engagement practices.
We
Like,
have
you can't-
beards now.
You can't compare. We have beards. We have beans.
We got Nebby.
Always thinking about him.
I think it may be my favorite though, actually, personally, because I don't have a lot of nostalgia for the original Pokemon. I played Little Gold. I've played them all a little bit. I've reviewed the last couple, and I think because of that, I think I could call Moon my favorite.
If you, by the end, I was just thinking, like, man, if I don't go in expecting a full height of Pokemon to me, which is like Soul Silver specifically, and just think of this as an RPG with not a great story, but with really fun mechanics and really addicting ability to catch these other characters, like, it's still really, really great and really fun to play in my mind. I understand. Like, I want the freedom again. We've said it 1,000 times. Stop holding my hand. And there's a lot of that. So if you are used to that, I think this game can be great. Especially like there's so many little details where I realize like, oh, later on in the game, if I come back to this island and talk to this person, it'll probably be an interesting little twist, or I'll get some item. Like, if you're into min-maxing this game, I think there's a ton to sink into here.
Yeah, but at the same time, like you said, it's like, hey, I'll talk to this guy. Your next quest marker is 5 feet away. Okay, and then it's just following,
That's the 40 hours, man. That's
following
what
that
it is.
breadcrumb. You know.
Yeah. Taylor from North Carolina.
To Taylor.
Taylor has a good idea, but the best idea I've ever heard, actually. He says, with a major complaint of the newer Pokemon games being too easy, it'd be interesting if Game Freak adopted the Fire Emblem version strategy of splitting the games into an easy and a hard version. With the GTS, obtaining version exclusives is no longer a problem, and I feel like having one version focus less on the story and having fewer points of assistance would be good for veterans of this series. I agree with Dan Tack that it takes grinding out. He says, however, I feel like experience share should remain in both. because I agree with Dan Tack that it takes grinding out, not necessarily reducing difficulty. What do you guys think of that idea of
That's
making
genius.
that this
I like that. I love it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be sweet.
It's also kind of a Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons approach, because Ages was focused on puzzle and Seasons was focused on combat.
I think
So
it's
it could
really
work.
smart. Yeah, it's been so long with these 2-game strategy, and I just don't think there's that much buzz around
That's
it. But
freaking sweet, man.
Yeah.
If you,
Yeah, there's not a ton of
Yeah.
value in like having 2 different versions
right,
lately.
but this would be a huge way to do
Right.
that.
Yeah, I guess the question is how would you like identify that for the average consumer? You know, like this
Yeah,
is the hard one.
just
this
don't
is the
buy
easy
this
one.
Fire Emblem did
Pokemon
it.
Rainbow and
The next
Pokemon
set
Hell.
is just going to be called Pokemon Hard, Pokemon Easy.
Yeah, I like that. Then,
That's
then
pretty
the,
good.
there you go. We
What's
did it.
the
We solved
third
it.
one called?
Medium, obviously.
Great.
Pokemon babies, Pokemon
Adults.
Tack.
It is.
I
a
see,
little
I,
more
you know,
than
honestly,
movies.
I seriously think that's a freaking,
I do.
freaking
I really
genius
do.
idea.
Yeah.
To Taylor, good job.
To Taylor from North Carolina. Alex Irish says, "Dear Game Club Chaparino Dinos." What does that
Cool.
mean? Oh, Chaparino Dinos? Anyways, Alex, he says, do you think the loss of PSS from Pokemon X and Y in favor of the Festival Plaza structure was in part influenced by the 3DS's battery concern? The PSS could stay connected online constantly wherever you are, but Pokemon Sun and Moon's online is restricted only to the Plaza. That could be. I guess that it wasn't too much in tune with the feedback saying that PSS from X and Y really drained the battery, but that could be.
I didn't really get a lot of value out of being online constantly in X and Y and Omega Ruby. Like I didn't gain a lot by constantly being online. So
Yeah.
I was happy with the festival sort of setup of you go in here to do online stuff and then you can leave when you're done.
And they're just trapped in this weird prison.
Yes.
Let's see. Josh Jones, who writes in a lot, we appreciate it, says, "Hey, J Crew, a few questions for you guys to answer. How many of you ended up turning off the fight animations to speed up the game?"
Absolutely.
Yes.
I didn't even know that was an option.
I didn't
First
know
thing
that.
I've done since X and Y Omega Ruby. It's
Yes,
like
I do turn them back on once in a while to like check out when I get like new cool moves to
Yeah.
like look at them, but they're
the Z
mostly
move
off.
specifically.
Yeah.
Like I turned on the Z move. I was like, oh, let me check this out. All right, got it. Off again.
Even outside of that, I think like Spirit Shackle is a move Sidoi learns, and it looks awesome. Like it gets like
Yeah,
an
with
owl
the
with the
arrow.
bow and arrow. It
Yeah.
looks like the Hunter Ultimate from Destiny.
And the Z move is even cooler.
Yeah.
When you, yep.
Yeah, they're really great, but it wasn't until I saw this email and I was towards the end of the game that I was like, oh, I gotta turn those off. And then also I saw in the menu you can speed up all
yeah.
text, and I was like, oh my god,
Speed that all up.
how did I not
That's
know
the first
this?
thing I did.
I know.
Yeah.
I should
I
have
did
thought
that,
of it
yeah.
earlier.
So you guys had battle animations on the whole
Yeah.
game? Reeves, you as well?
I did.
I
yeah.
did. I turned it off early,
Yeah.
and then turned it back on because I felt like I wanted to see that stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
because it just felt.
It's good animation. It's just time consuming.
Yeah, I turned that animation off like when I played the original Pokemon games, and I kind of like speeding up battle. Now that I'm like in game stuff, I'll probably turn it back off.
How weird is it, says Josh, that you can just fall asleep in other people's beds? I know I for sure had to test out every bed I came across. Why do games let you do this?
That's a good question.
Kyle's
It's
on
an
there.
old school JRPG trope where you just sleep, you know.
Big
get your
dog's
health
gotta
back.
sleep.
Big dog's gotta sleep.
Let's see. Durza Demon writes in with my favorite kind of email. He says, in the Pokemon Mega Mart on the second island, I was surprised to see Pokemon as food. Interacting with the shelves, there is Slowpoke Tail salad, Slowpoke Tail quiche, Slowpoke Tail sandwiches, among a few other items. What other interesting Pokemon would be best for eating?
And I think somewhere in that segment they say like, don't worry, we're not actually hurting the Pokemon because they like genetically create them or something. to
Right.
eat.
Well, that was our answer when we asked the
Yeah.
creators if they eat Pokemon as meat in the world. They're like, no, they're pretty high tech, so they don't need meat.
I think our Tauros was our specific example.
Right.
Yeah.
But then that means that at some point in that history they were totally doing that though, because they weren't.
of course.
Even like when Oak was a boy, I'm
Yeah.
sure he's just plowing away on a Staryu, just eating it while it's alive.
Staryu looks like it's made of stone.
But it's got a creamy center.
Oh man, this Porygon.
But speaking of talking to random people in a shop, on Pony Island, did you guys see there's that one person, Dantac, since you're plowing through the game, probably didn't catch this, you just talk to somebody in the shop and they just give you an Aerodactyl. What?
Yeah, I did miss that.
Oh, I missed
They just
that.
hand it to
yeah.
you. And so I thought, this is it. This is the Jurassic Park Dream Park payoff. So I immediately put the Aerodactyl back, put it in my party, flew back to Dream Park, went to that weirdo in the John Hammond RV.
And I did find that.
And he did not acknowledge the Aerodactyl. He's like, someday I dream of seeing a dinosaur Pokemon. I was like, whoa, look at the part. Nothing. And then it was frustrating because it was right when I got to Pony Island, and so I didn't have the flight point yet. So then I
You had,
couldn't.
to take the boat back.
Yeah, I couldn't fly back to Pony Island, so it took me forever to figure out, like, how do I get back there? I can't swim. So I had to go to Aether Foundation and go to the docks, and then figure out what the name of the town was on Pony Island, because it doesn't say what island it is. Like, do you want to go to Waku Waku Town? Like, where is that? Anyways,
Did you guys talk to the coffee shop and all the Poke Centers?
Yeah.
He gives you rare candies.
You get
He
every
does.
Moo
He gives you a lot of
Really?
rare
yeah.
candies.
But otherwise, I didn't know what the advantage of drinking lemonade was.
You get Moo Moo milk.
Okay, then
Dan,
what?
you moof milker.
That's right.
Christopher Sanchez writes in and says that he really wishes you could go to Unova at the end of this game, or maybe go there in the future. That's the black and white area, since they're the two U.S. based ones. And
That's the New York one?
yeah, I didn't catch any real references to Unova. It seems like it was much more Kano fan service.
Right.
Let's see. Kevin from Georgia says, "Hey Ben, thanks for reading my email the other week. I have a very important question. I hope it's not too late to ask, but will you guys be having a Pokemon battle tournament when you're finished with the game club? If not, you should. Someone please take down Dan Tack." We have not. That is a huge. I think we're all coming in really hot. We're playing a lot of other games. We should have had one big battle royale.
We should have.
yeah.
Maybe something like that.
We
can
can
try and line
still
up.
arrange it. I know
Yeah.
people have been asking.
Yeah, Barbara Dro writes in. She's wonderful. She says, anyone else annoyed about the Tapu Coco fight? I hate being thrown into battles when I haven't had a chance to prepare. I almost didn't have enough Pokeballs to catch it. All my Ultra Balls got used up, and I had to hope one of the other models would work. My badass Electric Fairy Island Guardian Pokemon is now chilling in a stupid dive ball. Barbara says, what was the point of Team Skull again? Don't get me wrong, I love how stupid the whole team is, but they were surprisingly irrelevant in the whole story. In the end, they seemed really sad, like little kids who lost their way. Yeah, that's
They
true.
were being used the whole time.
But it's
right?
never like Giovanni's like at the very end or something. It's not like they finish the little story about the bad guys being bad, then they're put back in their nice box, and then you go on and worry about yourself
Elite
again.
Four, yeah.
Right.
It is always a bummer though that the larger storylines they're always trying to build never really directly connect with what you're experiencing as a player.
I think we need a Pokemon where you work for Giovanni.
Ooh,
That's what I think we need.
Is that
I
part
still
of
want a
your
Pokemon where
MMORPG?
you become a gym
Well,
leader.
obvious that's just a pipe dream. We know it'll never happen, but that would be the most amazing game of all
like the
time.
tyranny of Pokemon.
Yeah, I think that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Just take it from the opposite approach.
Let's see. Barbara Jo also says, was Lucamine really so bad? All she wanted to do was hang out with her jellyfish friends, and she finally found a way for Nebby to be useful. That's true. What do you think Golbat looks like with its mouth closed? Does a flap of skin cover the void, or does its whole body fold in half?
I don't think
It
it's a
can't
lot.
actually close
Yeah.
its mouth.
It's like Gyarados, just to
Yeah.
swim underwater with its mouth open, which always makes me laugh. She also asked, which Pokemon's name is the best pun? I didn't know this Pokemon existed until the Elite Four. Toucannon is awesome.
oh my
Yep.
god.
And
It's
man,
just a toucan though.
I wish it
is.
looked
There's
badass.
it charges that beak, man. It hurts.
He's
Oh,
actually-
that beak attack is
Yeah.
I
devastating.
like Komala. It's
Komala,
a
yeah.
sleeping koala.
I don't know. I
Coma.
think
I
Crab
had
Abominable
Toucannon in
is
my...
is a
in your
fun
party.
word
I like
to
it how it's
say.
just a koala.
Yeah.
Just
Wait.
a koala, just a toucan.
Wait,
just
Reeves,
this
you said
animal.
you used Toucannon?
Yeah, I had him in my team for a long time.
Where'd you get him?
He's an evolved form of like one of the early birds you get on the first island.
Early
Oh,
bird
you
gets
got
the
the worm.
cannon.
Anyways.
Oh, boy.
Barbara says
I like
also, thank you.
I like Squirtle.
What's your number
I love
one?
Lamp.
What's your number one wish for the future of Pokemon?
I think
Dan Tack?
I think I just had mine. I'd like to play it from the bad guy's perspective for once.
I thought a
Well,
Pokemon
that implies story.
MMORPG.
Do you want the MMO? Here are your options, Dan. You can have your precious MMO.
Yeah.
You can have the storyless split, Fire Emblem style, or you can play from the bad guy's perspective, and there's lots of story.
Those are all great, but if I have to pick just one, it's the MMO because it would
Yeah.
be the best thing ever.
Dan's correct.
Would it be the best thing ever?
Yes,
I mean,
yes, it
Nintendo's
would.
track record with online stuff.
Well, they would team up with another company to
like
make-
Oh, like
Niantic.
Niantic.
No, not like Niantic.
What do you guys want from future Pokemon?
I want Pokemon to be real.
See, okay.
Yeah, Pokemon Go.
Are we
I
just
want a
are we
kiss of
doing,
Magikarp.
doing space in the sky wishes here?
Yeah,
Wishing
space
for
in the
stars.
sky.
They
in
didn't
the
say it had to
sky.
be realistic wishes for the future of Pokemon.
Yeah, I want less story. I want more of an approach of just freeform, bigger spaces. Just give us the bare bones of what we want, everybody.
Just give it to us.
Yeah, better visuals. I'm thinking in my head kind of like a GTA sort of level of open world, but you catch Pokemon in that kind of
I like the Oblivion style.
or Oblivion. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good,
just wander around.
Whack Pokemon with your sword.
Whack
I like the
Pokemon
Mass
with your
Effect
sword.
style. Sorry,
Yeah,
we're just naming
sure.
other-
Zelda style.
I like a Dishonored style where you pick up a Pokemon, and in order to capture them, you
You're
have
just
to,
Scyther through the
you
game.
have to choke them to submission and then capture them.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Bayonetta style.
The Tomb Raider style.
Street Fighter style.
Final
Minecraft
Fantasy
style.
style. Horizon style.
Yeah.
I like the gym leader idea that I have.
Yeah, that'd be fun. What type of gym leader would you want to be,
I
Brancher?
don't know. The possibilities are endless.
Well, we'll save it for the next game.
It sounds like an Animal Crossing like game where you just build up your gym and like you have other people battle for you, and then other people can sneak into your gym, sort of like the Metal Gear Solid base stuff.
That would be super.
I think it's
neat.
more Tomodachi lifestyle.
You should try playing Pokemon Go. You can kind of be a
Should
gym leader
be
there.
Wu-Tang style.
Hey, you guys. We've covered a lot of ground. Anything anybody else wants to get off their chest about Pokemon Sun and Moon?
You guys need to. I need to trade an Oranguru for the
Oranguru?
Sun Monkey.
I love that. What is the first one called?
I forget what the.
There's a great moment in this game where there's one just sitting by a mountain staring at this guy, and then he has his back to him. You go talk to the guy, and he's like, I feel like someone's staring into the back of my head. And it's just this monkey in the bushes staring at it. It's great.
That's awesome.
It's the coolest thing.
I need to trade too.
Let's do it.
I would
I
also
wanna
like to
trade.
note that when you rub Poliwhirl's whirl, he gets sad. He doesn't like it when you do that.
It's only if you go counter whirl.
Pikachu doesn't like when you, or Pichu doesn't like when you rub his belly either.
Is that right?
Yeah, he gets really sad.
Dan Tack?
Do I have any final thoughts?
Yeah.
No? Well, I think we opened with them, so I think I've said my piece on this title.
I enjoyed my time with this game. We vented the frustration so much, and I feel like people read our feedback as being super negative. There's a lot of things to be nitpicky about. It's Pokemon, everybody. But I think this was a very solid entry. I liked it more than X and Y.
This was a strong year for video games, and this is one of my favorite games of the year.
Oh, no, Brian Shea.
I have a lot of complaints about it, but
Brian Shea.
It's like we made the game or something. Oh, Shay, you like our game.
But thanks to everybody that wrote in. Really appreciate you guys playing along. I beat it in 40 hours, so all
40.
the people that spent so much time with the game and emailed in a million thoughts. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them, but really appreciate it. Don't know what the next game club is going to be, but I promise it'll be a real good one, and it'll probably be next year. In fact, I'll 100% say it's coming next year in 2017, so something to look forward to.
Yakuza 0.
Yakuza 0, I'm holding out for.
A lot of Yakuza fans, a lot of Catherine fans. It's an interesting feedback. So whatever you want to see, send it into podcast@gameformer.com. Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of Game Club and this full episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm sorry it went long, but until the next episode, which is coming up on Thursday, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.